Welcome to Hot Literati. Hot Literati is a collective of hot, cool, well-read people. I am Hailo, and I'm really happy that you're here. So today's book is Afternoons in Utopia by Stephen Leacock. Gorgeous cloth-bound paperback from the 1960s. This is why I picked it out, but this is my platonic ideal of book, I would say. I love this type of page, rough edges. You can tell it was hand cut. I want to learn more about stitching, binding and stuff, but it's just a gorgeous book. And then the cover, the little planets, so cute. And then what it is it's like a sci-fi collection where Stephen Leacock, the author, kind of explores this notion of utopia, of utopian societies, the absurdity of trying to create one, and the necessity to try to be better. I think this is a question that plagues all artists, all creative people, all humans, because it quite reminds me of Vonnegut, and I would say his writing style reminds me of Vonnegut as well. However, I think Vonnegut is a little more adept at creating really lovable characters, and obviously he himself became really famous, whereas Stephen Leacock is he's well known, but he's not well known to the degree of Vonnegut. So the book is split into 5 different sections. I'll show you table of contents. The first one is called Utopia Old and New. Then you have Grandfather Goes to War, The Doctor and the Contraption, Rah Rah College, or Tom Bankham at Shucksford, and then The Band of Brothers. I would say the one I really enjoyed was Grandfather Goes to War, because I think it points out the absurdity of war in a really poignant way. I cried. So I bought this book at Strand. I bought a bunch of stuff that looked like this, him and John O'Hara's, this other author. They had really good titles, and I was intrigued by them. And then I had it for a few months, honestly probably almost a year, before I decided to read it. And I think I decided to read it because, gosh, I don't know. I have no clue. Okay, now I'll tell you what I thought of it, and to spark my own memory, I'm sort of going to go through my annotations in order, the sections that I really liked or found particularly interesting. I love these pages. The pages are so good, thick paper. Okay, so this quote is from Utopia Old and New, a chapter in the first section. You see, there's practically no work at all now. It's all done by the machines, and especially by the new life force, which science has invented, and which is called we. You've heard of that? I annotated this because I think it's really interesting compared to discourse around AI now, and this question of jobs. So apparently he wrote this book around the Great Depression. So when you see parallels like that throughout art, throughout literature, throughout human history, I think you kind of notice these patterns that become reassuring because, we've always figured it out. The next thing I annotated, in a world where nothing happened, there were, of course, no events or happenings to talk about. Sorry, I lost my own place. In a world where nothing happens, there's nothing to talk about. I've been thinking about this in conversation a lot, and I made a guide on the website, hotliterati.com, called How to Be Better at Conversations, because I think in an over-intellectual society, we do too much, we think too much, and I was talking with my friend Abby, who's a really talented writer and just a really great person, and we were talking about how much we love the Midwest, because sometimes they're really good at asking the question, what are we going to do with that? And I think I have a healthy amount of, well, what are we going to do with that, having grown up in the Midwest? And I think sometimes with certain apps, certain things, we need to ask ourselves the question more what are we going to do with this? And sometimes that's why I love cooking so much, because it's really simple. And you make a meal and you sit down and it's like you like the meal or you don't. And you can talk about the way the tomato is sliced, and it's something to talk about that's really simple. Oh gosh, I dog-eared my page and I didn't annotate it. I hate when I do that. Mrs. Afterthought. The character names are really fun. Oh, Jane, they imagine like a robotic helper named Jane. And they're like, Jane is really slow. I don't think you wound her up properly on Monday, Mom. And I know this just like feeds into some of the discourse we have now, but what I find more interesting is the fact that people have been writing about this, thinking about this for a long time. Like in King, Queen, Knave by Nabokov, he has a character that's trying to build like an animatronic woman, and there are all these sections where he's like, and they couldn't get the hips right, or like writers have been thinking about these things for a really long time. And so this like imagining of one I think is really interesting. I know it's been in a lot of films, which I admittedly have not watched. I've only watched like 2 movies this year, and I need to watch more, and I have a list that one of my mentors sent me that I need to get through. The thing that made me cry, because the section is called Grandfather Goes to War, and the section that made me cry was when the grandfather is like remembering what it was like to try to save his brother, and I think that's kind of like some of the only really strong character work in the book. Yeah, he talks about like the machination things. Then there's a section, moving on to the next part, the doctor and the contraption. It kind of talks about like, it's like commentary on healthcare, I think. Page 91. If no one had seen a cooked lobster, a whole supper party would rise, shrieking with terror at the sight of one. Thus, it would seem probable that, with the triumphant progress of reconstructive surgery, all sense of terror or gruesomeness will pass away. We are quite used to people with false teeth, we are getting used to people with lifted faces, and presently we shall not shrink in alarm from a friend who has just bought a brand new stomach. I think this is really interesting compared to like the Age of the Instagram Face article, right? Like he's writing about stuff like this in the 1930s before cosmetic surgery is like widely available, but he's like talking about how it will be. But I think it also points out like they're like so afraid of it, you know? He's like, it's gonna be crazy. When it's like prevalent today and it's not really crazy to us anymore. And I guess my takeaway that just with my values and things, it makes me kind of like in awe of humanity to like adapt to new things and to like find stuff to do. I think we need to find like more productive stuff to do, like care about people, make beautiful things, treat the earth better. Okay. Pages. Did I talk here? Anything else? Oh my goodness. Like doing this with one hand. Okay, there's one back here. The Band of Brothers. But the people of the 19th century capitalism, and especially the Americans, took a hold of a good thing, improved it, and spoiled it. Within 100 years, they had covered their country, land, sea, and air with a vast clutter of roaring machinery. I mean, he was writing this like right after the Great Depression, right? So like right after, I'm getting better at history, but right after the Industrial Age, right? Yeah, that was all that I annotated. So I guess the other things that are really interesting that he does in this book, he imagines like the future of the university or college as like a private institution that's trying to make money, and he imagines this world where going to college is sort of just like walking around and thinking about stuff. Oh, here's something I annotated, but did not fold the page. I'm glad I found it. Chapter 3 of The Band of Brothers, in a chapter called Our System in Operation. This is a good quote. I suppose that each successive generation of mankind has imagined itself to be living in an age of peculiar importance, of impending danger, and of fleeting happiness. I think characters are really important. Honest storytelling is really important, because characters allow you to see the humanity in a story and like build empathy and imagine what it is like to be someone else. He's trying to imagine an entire society, which he's a professor, I think he was. So the satire aspect, all that, it's like interesting. And I would be curious if someone would take the stories and write like screenplays for episodes of The Twilight Zone or something. But I don't know if I would read this again, because the character work, like, nothing is really gonna stick with me, I feel like. But I'm glad I read it. Yeah. This was Afternoons in Utopia by Stephen Leacock. Go to hotliterati.com. You can get a list of every book I've read this year so far. There are 18 of them. And then if you join our community on Substack, you can chat with us in the chat room and read my writing. Thank you. Good night. Happy you're here.